Hey, this is Rhett with TestingTheory.com, and today we're going to talk about the A/B testing blunder of the Tack On. Everyone's been on that project that has experienced scope creep, where you're doing something and over time the project gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The same thing happens with testing. What happens is people have a very good testing idea, and the Tack On blunder happens that takes a good idea and makes it worse and worse. Today I want to show you how you can spot this blunder and how you can avoid it, and the reason why it's so dangerous to a testing program. Recently, I was working with a newer testing strategist on my team, and they had come up with a testing question that was actually very good. They said, should we have a different landing page for the unique audiences that come to the site? So they started creating variations for the unique landing page. Well, this would be for the parents' audience, and this would be for the spouse's audience, and this would be for the leader's audience, and this would be for the friend's audience. So they started making these landing pages based on these different unique audiences, which is a great question. The problem was they started tacking on other things to the test. They threw in a couple different business questions without even realizing it. They said, what's the best way to present the content? And then they said, how should we let them access the content? They didn't realize that they were asking different questions. They just wanted to add on extra experiences. They were like, hey, we have this heading, maybe we should make it an accordion experience. And then they were like, well, hey, we have these links, maybe we should link to these subpages. And they're like, hey, well, what if we combine all this and we make this unique audience page with different links and different accordion experiences? The problem is they started tacking on additional questions to their original test, which became much less efficient and much less valuable for the test in general. So when you're coming up with variations for your test, you need to always ask yourself, do these variations answer the original business question, or am I creating a new business question by adding on this variation? You also need to ask yourself if by adding these extra variations, you're limiting the things you would try if that was its own unique business question. And what I mean by that is when you tack on something to a test, you might say, well, let's just try it with the accordion. Well, the business question for that might be, how do we display content? What's the best way for them to access the content? And that question itself might have multiple variations. So by taking a sub-business question and tacking it on to a test, you're not giving that question the true due diligence that it deserves. The question of how to display content could have any number of variations, but we do ourselves a disservice when we just tack it onto something else and think that we've actually answered that question, instead of realizing that's a whole different business question in general. So that's the first challenge that tacking on to a test creates, is that it limits the ideas that you can try. Because you don't try. You think that you've solved the question with the one or two variations you had, and you don't actually give full justice to that business question. The other thing that it does is it creates more complex analysis when you just tack on an idea. You might have 4 variations for the audience question, but then you have a variation for how they access content. Are you going to multiply that one variation by the 4 different audiences to see that combination effect of audience and how they access content and where you put the content? You see that it creates more complexity rather than simplifying your learnings. The other thing that this does is it creates the illusion of learning more. You might think to yourself, wow, we ran a test and we answered this question and this question and this question. And the reality is that if those were good questions asked, you could have easily just answered them with 3 separate tests. But you would have a better answer because you took the time to explore variations appropriate for that business question. So that's your quick tip for the day. Remember that as you're creating test variations to answer your business questions, make sure that you're not putting variations in there that actually answer a different question. If you do catch yourself getting a variation there that's a different question, then you might want to take that question, break it out as a separate test, and create more variations that surround that one question. This allows you to get better ideas and to fully answer that question and do it justice. If the question itself isn't worthy of more variations, then it's likely that you're asking or answering the wrong question and you should move on and prioritize something else. Remember not to tack on more stuff to your testing variations. Keep them simple, have good test variations, and make sure that the variations you've created answer the business question that you have.